Okay guys, good job on that unit. You're getting pretty awesome at this. So now we're going to play a game that's going to help us practice.
It's called What Do You Do?
So here's a scenario for you to practice your professional problem solving. You're running really late to your babysitting job. You have to be there to meet the child getting off the school bus, assuming that this is when school buses are running again. You stuff all your things into your backpack and you rush out the door. When you get to the babysitting destination, you can't find the key that the mother gave you. You go to call her, hoping there's a spare somewhere that you can access, but then you realize you actually forgot your phone too. And now you don't have enough time to go back home because the school bus is going to be here with the child at any minute. What do you do?
I would go to the bus and meet the child first.
Right. Bottom line is you are responsible for the child. Once you're with the child, then you can think about what you're going to do next.
Maybe there's a neighbor who has a key or can call mom.
That's a good point. That's something that you should talk about with the parents before you agree to babysit. Remember that mistakes can happen, but this could potentially be a safety precaution that you could avoid.
What if I don't want to call mom? It's embarrassing. Can't I just take the kids to the library or the park?
First thing first, you will have to call. And I know, you don't have your phone, right? But you will ask the child when you pick them up from the bus stop if you can use their phone. Things happen, keys go missing, and it happens. So you'll call or either text the parent with updates because that's a grown-up thing to do. And honestly, the parent might be really impressed with what you're doing.
When I call the mom, I'm showing her that I can solve problems.
That's a great point. And remember, part of your job is to make the parent's job easier. So you need to think about your options before you start acting. Before you call, is this important, dangerous, or otherwise a need for immediate contact? If so, contact. Be careful with what you say because you want to use the correct details and open communication. If you live nearby, are you allowed to transport the kids to go get the keys and the phone? Will you have to use a bus or walking? These are things the parent has the right to know. And unless there's no other options, you might need to ask for permission to go out in public, like stay at a park nearby. You always have to get permission from the guardian before you take the child anywhere. That is incredibly important. This is when you can also ask what options she would want you to take.
Let's try the next scenario. You're babysitting a brother and a sister. You take the kids to the playground and they head to a swing set. The boy is reckless and you're afraid that he will hurt himself or somebody else. You call out to remind him that he needs to use the swing the right way, but he doesn't change and he continues to do what he's doing. He loses his balance and he scrapes his face on the ground. You're irritated that he didn't listen to you. However, you're also worried that he got hurt. What do you do?
I would tell him that I hope he learned his lesson.
So you might be frustrated that he didn't listen, but remember that he needs help more than he needs punishment. You're not the parent, you're the babysitter. So remember your role. Your job is to help. So the next step is to assess the injuries. If it's just scrapes, make sure you sanitize your hands and anything you plan on using. Get out the first aid kit. And make sure before you touch the child that you have gloves on. You don't want to come in contact with the blood. When you're cleaning the injury, try and use warm water if it's accessible. Otherwise, you're going to have to use one of those skin contact antibacterial wipes. If there's any dirt or debris that are still in the cut after you tried to clean it, carefully use the tweezers from your first aid kit to remove anything from the cut.
Apply antibiotic to keep the cut from getting infected.
But if the cut looks too deep and he might need stitches, you're going to have to go to the emergency room.
Remember how we started in the beginning? We talked about reviewing emergency contacts and procedures with the parent before you're left alone with the child. You'll need those permission slips and the letter to treat.
I would have to call the mom again, wouldn't I?
Yes, you're gonna have to call the parent again, and not really while the situation's going on. You want to have the situation under control so there's not panic that the parent's hearing on the other end. But once it's resolved, make sure you provide the necessary updates to let her know that the kid's feeling better, maybe they started playing again, and keep in mind that if the cuts are deep and it requires a medical emergency, that she has to be the one to decide if her child's going to the hospital.
Most babysitters will run into situations like this sometimes. Things do happen. Kids bump their knees and they fall down or get off their bike, but you have to keep your cool. Remember to keep your cool.
It is important that you stay focused, stay calm. And we know these things happen, but try and work quickly to make sure things don't get worse and you can keep the safety of the children at the top of your priority.
Next scenario, you're babysitting your little sister and you keep telling her to do things like clean up her breakfast, do her homework, but she won't listen. She just keeps watching TV, and all she says is, "You're not mom. You're not the boss of me." And she turns up the TV. What do you do?
Depends. Does she know I'm in charge? I think I'm gonna have to talk to my parents about that.
Maybe we should work up to it gradually. Like first, do stuff while my parents are still home.
Then they can leave me home with my sister while they get milk, and then they go to a movie, and then a whole day.
I agree, that's a really good idea.
You should also talk to your parents about things that you know beforehand can be a risk. Think about and identify possible problems that will probably come up. Like maybe your sister rides the scooter in the house, even though she's told 100 times not to do it, or she tries to say she brushed her teeth, but she really did not. What would we do about that?
I would have our parents talk to my sister and tell her she has to listen to me.
Similar to the other scenarios that was mentioned earlier, what would we do here?
Does the stuff have to get done? What will happen if it doesn't? But what if it turns into a power struggle? If I say do it and she says no, what are the consequences I'm going to give her?
Good point. You always have to be consistent and stick to the plan, including if there's consequences.
And your question about if it has to be done brings up another good point. What if you let her live the consequences and it happens to be that she doesn't get it done?
But if she doesn't do her homework and fails her school assignment, it's gonna be my fault.
It is not your fault if your sister chooses to do these things. However, isn't it better for her to make these small mistakes now versus when she gets older like you? It might be harder to have a small mistake not have a bigger consequence.
If she has to live with a stinky, dirty lunchbox because she didn't listen to me to clean it, well, oh well.
So maybe I explain to her why I tell her to do these things. For example, if she doesn't clean her lunchbox, it will get really gross and have bugs in it.
Right. Telling her because I said so might feel good in the moment. However, it'll always lead to a power struggle, which you will probably lose because, let's face it, you're not her mom, and you can't really force her to do something when she keeps digging her heel.
You can't just shout from the next room and expect her to do what you say, can you? Go in, get on her level, and make eye contact. Remain within positive boundaries while being supportive. Being friendly with your siblings will also establish a positive connection.
This is another situation where you're knowing something about the child and development can be very helpful. At a lot of times, your younger kids have limited peripheral awareness. That means that they really don't register what's happening around them.
Nope, she's ignoring me.
Okay, that might be true. She might be trying to ignore you. Children, especially those who are close to us, might try and test you and try and assert power. So what happens if she does ignore you? Are you just gonna give up?
I have to give consequences and mean it.
Yes, but again, talk, calm tone, not trying to be the boss. Tell her why you're asking. She's standing on the chair in the kitchen table because it's not safe. She has to find shoes to put on because she will be late to the play date. and that's bad manners.
Yes, and also if she's really little, she might not have all the words that she wants in order to express herself. If she shouts or says something like, "Give me that," you could always just kind of follow up in a positive way. Give her an example like, "People don't like when you talk to them like that. Can you ask me nicely?"
Next scenario, you walk into the store with the 2 kids that you're taking care of. Once you get there, you realize that you have a friend that you haven't seen in a while. As you're speaking to them, you turn around and realize that one of the boys is no longer there. What do you do? Jada.
First, I wouldn't panic.
Devin?
Then I would make sure to hold his sister's hand while I look for him.
Asia.
I would ask the manager to make an announcement.
Yes, all of those. And make sure when you arrive to babysit that you make a note or a text of what the children are wearing, just in case you have to describe them.
Time is very important. You want to make sure you focus on finding the child and also calling the parents immediately and the police.
It'll be a hard phone call to make, but you have to inform the parents of the situation. Let them know about the steps you've already taken and the next steps that you will take. Keep communicating with the parents until the child is found.